Hello, and welcome to the show. If we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Christine O'Donnell. I'm the founder of Bright-Sided Podcasting. We are a production and digital marketing company based right here in Saratoga Springs, New York. And we have been producing this podcast from behind the scenes for the past more than a year now. And we produce a number of podcasts in the area and beyond. And I'm so excited to actually be back here in front of the camera, in front of the microphone, and talking to you. Fun fact about me, I used to be a TV news reporter. And instead of lamp, I love chairs. If you get that reference, we're friends. If you don't get that reference, you're probably younger than me. And then I just, in my head, still think that I'm young. Has anyone seen that post about like the millennials who are like, of course, like I'm a millennial, so I'm young. And joining me today on the show is Catherine Hover. She is the founder of Pellet and the inspiration of this podcast. She developed and launched Seriously Catherine with Bright-Sided, and we're so excited to have her on the show because we have some big announcements that are coming out, and I just am looking forward to you hearing them and to also getting your feedback. But before we go there, my hot take this week for you is all about Dame Maggie Smith. I am such a huge Harry Potter fan, and she was everything I imagined Professor McGonagall to be. Her role playing that character, like Maggie Smith, Professor McGonagall, I don't even know where the lines end. Like she was firm, she was fair, she was kind, she was silly, a little bit quirky, good sense of humor, but like very trustworthy and reliable. And she just was like every single one of like the best teachers I've ever had in my life was Professor McGonagall. And I'm going to miss her. I feel like I know her. And it's like not a parasocial relationship because, I don't think I ever stalked her on social media. I just really connected with her. I think in most of the characters that I've seen her play, she just did such a good job completely becoming that character. I also enjoyed her in Downton Abbey, where she played a similar kind of character, but also different, witty, silly, kind of like biting sense of humor. Like it hurts you. It's so funny. And then she has these like very just strong statements where she says things like, what did she say in Downton Abbey that just stays with me? She said, and if you have other lines, because she had so many like quick one-liners, but at one point she was like, what's a weekend? Like, what's a weekend? Like that's the thing? Like, people have weekends? Yes, the working class has weekends. But yeah, so I always just thought that was so funny. And I guess I didn't really think that people who, lived on giant estates like the Ton would not have weekends because like they didn't really need to. So anyway, I'd love to know what you think about Maggie Smith and the roles that she has played. Do you have a favorite role? Now you know mine. And my hot take is that she is irreplaceable. And I want to leave you with this little video I saw of what happened at Universal Studios the day that we all found out that she had passed away, because I watched it and it gave me chills and brought a tear to my eye. And now Catherine Hover is joining us for this week's episode of the podcast.
So, Christine.
Hi.
You're taking over the podcast this month.
Yes, thanks for being here on the show.
I'm so happy to be back for this one episode.
It feels right.
It felt abrupt to me to like take the pause because it is very difficult for me to like pump the brakes. I'm learning as a human that it's necessary. But I I am that type of that person that just like jumps off the cliff and figures it out as I go. So I think when you joined Palette and opened up the studio, I was like chomping at the bit to like get here and do this and like go all in, and support you and, share my story and just, figure it out. I'm a big figure it out loud. And, that comes with having egg on your face sometimes, So anyway, what was it at the beginning of this summer? I guess like June, May, I was starting to feel like completely overwhelmed. We had just bought a house. We were in the middle of a home renovation, moving. I, was starting a new job. I mean, it was like a lot. And I was like,
You
came to my rescue.
Yeah.
Yeah. You came to the rescue and you're like, let's do a podcast takeover strategy. So we had all these amazing Palette members that took over the podcast for the next couple of months. And now you're taking it over.
Yeah. So I'm the next person to take over the podcast for the month of October. And I'm excited to share a little bit more about myself, my business, and how Palette has helped me grow my business a little bit faster than I was necessarily expecting for it to, which is like growing pains.
Well, yeah, sometimes you are not prepared for that, and it's like an oh shit moment.
Yes.
And that is when you need community the most. I just think people underestimate, maybe you did underestimate the power of community and connection. And when you are more connected and you have community, you also build confidence. See what I'm doing here?
I do, and I'm here for it live.
I love this. Okay, so with all that comes growth and all good things, and so that's how you're kind of able to navigate it. And that's literally how I have navigated everything, right? Like I go all in. I tell everybody what I'm working on. Like if somebody wants to steal my ideas or they want to do what I'm doing, awesome. I'm flattered. Go for it. Like there's enough for all of us, and just do it out loud and be authentic, be yourself, because it's just like, it's exhausting to have to cover it up. It's already exhausting, like living as it is, right? So like to then wake up and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to like put on this show is just absurd to me.
Well, I mean, watching you live is a little bit of a show, just like because you are doing so much out loud, like you're just going. You're just going. And
there's like something twisted about that. Like, I don't know if it's like, I think we've talked about this on the podcast. Like, I think when my mom was a guest on the podcast, we talked about like, I have this like sense of urgency, like time is running out. We are not promised tomorrow. I need to have no regrets when I drop dead, like, and I do sort of think about that a lot. Like, I'm just going to drop dead. I'm not going to like live. I'm not going to like have a, slow and steady death. I'm just going to be gone. And so I'm preparing for that. And I'm like, I sort of like encapsulate that in everything I do. So if there's an opportunity that I'm like, oh my God, I got to take advantage of this. I got to go. I got to do it. And I got to figure it out. And then again, surrounding yourself with all the players who are going to be able to support that. And that in a nutshell is very difficult as well, right? Like, marriage is hard. Relationships are hard because it may seem to people that don't know me that I am like hair on fire, running around doing all sorts of different things. Like, how does she do it? How does she do it? And it's like, you can do it too. Just come along for the ride and help a sister out.
Well, I want to slow down for a second because there's a couple things that I know that the audience might not have context of. Mm-hmm. And if you've been following along the Seriously Catherine podcast, you are probably aware that you had a near-death experience. Like
I almost died last year.
So like that was real. That was kind of shocking. That was
like people. So and I had to be made more clearly and directly aware of this by some of my experts, like
your
Dr.
friends, your
Ashtrock,
community.
I mean, like, yeah, my OBGYN, clearly telling me like, no, people die of ectopic pregnancies because they don't catch it in time. They lose too much blood and they just die. And like a lot of like people do, that is like a thing.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, and in my state of mind when that happened, I was like, oh, like that wouldn't happen to me. And like, I'm at the hospital now and like, there's nothing, like what are the odds of me dying at Saratoga Hospital? Pfft, come on. Well, people die there, people are born there too. right? I was very, very well taken care of. I got to the hospital in time. But even like recounting that story, I have a friend that's a doctor. I was like telling her, it's like her eyes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like, oh my God, all the things that had to line up in order for me to like get out of that, alive is sort of remarkable.
Yeah.
It just sort of like makes my theory on the do the thing, act now, like even more
relevant.
Because
Yeah.
I'm like, see, I almost died.
Yes.
And now I'm on like all this borrowed. I mean, I don't really like feel like I'm on borrowed time. I don't know. I don't look at it that way, but I'm like, okay, that was just like a red flag. You know what I'm saying? Like just a reminder, like, oh yeah, you're not immortal.
That being said, like I have seen you slow down. I have seen you just like the other day draw a firm boundary and be like, now it's the time I have to go pick up my kids because they have sports and stuff that they have to do. And you were like, what's going on with your kids? Like, do they? And I was like, I don't have time to bring them from work to sports right now. Like, that's not something that I have in my life. And to me, just like having that little walk and conversation, because we walked and talked.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta leave, and if you want to talk to me, you're gonna have to like walk with me down the block.
And I did, and it was refreshing to see you drawing these boundaries and like prioritize, because your children are very much a priority, and you make sure that they have experiences that they're going to remember and cherish in their childhood. And you have to be someone who slows down to do those things. So you aren't always just running around with your hair on fire.
I do.
You do take these moments.
Yeah, I do have times when I am horizontal. And I'm almost comatose where I cannot, because I go hard until I'm like flat out. And that's also another frustrating sort of attribute of, just like I'm a very high energy person. So, yeah. And I'm young. Oh my God, I just turned 38. I'm like a young whippersnapper here, We are
young.
I do feel like I don't really think about the age thing that often. I think like more other people make it more of a big deal than I do.
Yeah.
Also, I have older friends, so I think sometimes they have to point out like, oh my God, you're so much younger. Like, oh my God, and I'm like, guys, come on. Like, I'm like, I don't know. Like when you're an older person, I think, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's like, I remember when I was like in 7th grade and I would like never talk to someone in college, but that's like sort of the gap that I have between a lot of me and my friends.
Yeah.
There have been people telling me, right? Like when you turn the 40, you turn that corner and your body like just is different. You can't physically do all the things that you used to be able to do. And I do kind of feel like I definitely less energy than I was 10 years ago. So naturally I'm slowing down is what I'm getting at.
It's just life.
I packed a lot in my 20s and still packing some things into my 30s. And then when I hit 40, I think at that point, I'm just going to like put it in park for a hot minute,
I don't. I don't.
To be determined.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for what's next with Catherine Hofer. Speaking of, what are you up to these days?
So I started a new job.
What?
Okay, so there's this other sort of theory that I had been grappling with for years now. And it's like once an entrepreneur, then you're unemployable. And people have told me that, right? Like people are like, oh, you could never work for anyone else. And I'm like, why do you say that? Am I such a psychopath that like I couldn't be a team player? I couldn't take the lead from somebody else? Like that's something like, I don't know. I feel like it's a very egotistical thing to think of yourself or to tell somebody else, right? And I do think like good leaders empower other people to lead.
Yeah.
They don't always have to be, the one doing all the things, right? So
yeah, I agree.
Anyway, I was like sort of talking about this to some of my entrepreneurial like peers and brainstorming with them about like, well, what if Catherine Hofer was going to do something else or work for somebody else, what would she do? And they gave me like such a litany of ideas. And I was like, oh, it's on. It is on. I'm going to find a job and I'm going to do something that like applies to the, like my last 12 years of entrepreneurship, small business owner, what I'm passionate about, what my mission in life is, and apply that to like the workforce. So like that's like one piece of it is like I'm proving out that I can work for someone. I can be an excellent, successful employee, right?
Yes. And this week's serious business lesson brought to you by Bright-Sided Podcasting. And I'm just going to be real with you. I am someone who in business struggles with boundaries and self-care. And so this is my lesson. If you are like me and you are struggling with holding your boundaries firm, reach out to people in your life who you trust, who are better at this. This has really helped me so much when I am making decisions or I'm struggling. There are so many wonderful people in the world, and we all are given different gifts. And I am really working on building up my boundaries one. So in the meantime, while I'm still working to figure it out, there are a couple people who I really trust and respect, and I'm so grateful for those relationships. And so when I am struggling, I thankfully can reach out to them and share my worries, share my experience, and then they totally knock some sense into me and just provide me with some strength that I didn't even know that I had. So if you are struggling with boundaries and you're working on them, outsource it. And then bring it back to yourself and learn what you can in that moment, and then take the lesson so you don't have to always outsource it. But if you're struggling, you can ask for help. Who knew?
And then the other part of it is that in the female-focused space that I've created for myself, that I'm in all the time with Palette. I have 3 daughters, so it's always top of mind, what are their lives going to be like when they grow up? Are they still going to be making shit money compared to their male counterparts? And I just started to have this frustration with so many women bitch about the wage gap and gender inequalities in the workforce, and we don't get enough PTO, and we don't get enough maternity leave, and care economy in America is so twisted. All these sorts of things, and I don't know the statistics.
Those are all true things.
Those are all true things, but a lot of us are not in the workforce, right? How many women left the workforce during COVID? How many women leave the workforce to stay home with kids? I'm not knocking it, but it's we got to have a dog in the fight. We got to be in the arena if we're going to move the needle. So my mission with this new job, which is recruiting, staffing, agency, is getting women back into the workforce so that we can start really enacting and adapting the change and having the conversations about it. Why is it still this way? There's so many reasons why. But if we can help women, and not just women, but parents in general that have a gap in their resume that, AI throws out when you go to LinkedIn, you apply for a job. It's your resume is not getting looked at. You have a gap in your resume. AI doesn't know what to do with you. And so they don't even deliver it to the organization. On the other side of it, the organization is getting thousands of resumes, and they don't have the capacity to go through all these people, right? And they're just plucking and then hope for the best.
So what you're doing is you have kind of in a way created a pool, or a pond of people, of amazing women in career or entrepreneurs or just women in business who come to Palette to do their work on a regular basis. And you're also involved in all of these other communities where these amazing women in business. And then you now work for the staffing agency, and it's their job to put people in new roles.
Right.
But you have this pool. You already know because you have relationships with all of these people.
Yeah. So it's certainly monetizing my network, making sure that the people who I am already connected with, have I don't know what I'm trying to say. My
Matching. Matchmaking.
Yeah, matchmaking, which I was already doing. Like, there's so many people at Palad who come here who are like, oh, I'm happy at my job, but I'm always looking. And then they jump ship, right? Because again, they're surrounding themselves with people. They're becoming more connected. They have community now. And they're like, oh my God, what the possibilities are endless. I actually could go somewhere else and be treated more fairly or make more money or be valued as a working mom, and negotiating salaries and like talking about, it's not about the money. It's about the benefits. It's about unlimited PTO. It's about not feeling guilty when you got to go get your kid because the nurse called and she's sick. It's like all of that minutia that like we don't ever even like put on paper. And it's like negotiate all that stuff up front and ask for it up front. And the whole process, job searching, job seeking, from the organization side, from the candidate side, it's stressful. It's so and the system's broken. Like, who wants to go on Indeed and like put a resume up?
A caveat here, as someone who has tried to not be an entrepreneur and who has gone on Indeed and has gone on LinkedIn and has applied for jobs over this 6-year journey, not lately, but yeah, there were points in my life that I was like, let me just see, or even like reached out to people hoping that they would connect back with me. Mm-hmm. And it is so hard to hear a response.
It's crickets.
You like go and you're like, I know, not only am I qualified for this position, I'm overqualified.
Right.
Like, why am I not getting a call back at least? Or is it because I'm overqualified? Or is it because they know I've been a business owner and now they don't want to hire me? Like, I just don't know.
I mean, it could be so many things. Like I've gotten you're overqualified. Okay, well, like maybe I want to try something new. I can't stand you're overqualified, or they're afraid to offer you something where they think they're going to be rejected, because they're not going to offer you enough money. I mean, it's just like so many things, and it can be like so discouraging to be on. Again, and what I'm learning is that I used to think, it's so discouraging for the candidate, for the person applying for the job, who wants to work, It's also equally discouraging on the other side of it, because you get all of these, and that's what I'm learning, because that's like sort of my role. I'm trying to find organizations that value flexible, they have flexible benefits. They are amazing places to work. Their employees are happy. Mm-hmm. There's great culture. They're paying good. They are offering hybrid remote work, because that is what people want, especially if they have families and they have other things going on in their lives. What I'm learning is that they are equally discouraged and stressed and overwhelmed, and they're trying to do their job, and then they need to backfill these other, positions. And so a recruiter, and I didn't have any idea, I absolutely heard, recruiters, and this is what they do. I used to think they didn't apply to small businesses. They didn't apply to smaller markets. And that's just not true. I mean, they fill the gap. And I truly don't believe that. All the talk of AI and technology and all these advancements, I truly do not think that role in an organization and on the in between is ever going to be replaced by a robot. I mean, because this is so intrinsically human and people, it's relationships. So anyway, it was a no-brainer to me. I know Tammy Cole. She is my boss. She's my employer, and she is an amazing, badass woman. She was a single mom, so she's got that personal experience. She didn't go to college, but she's this incredibly successful, amazing, becoming a role model to me, because I just think she's such a badass. And she's obviously taking a bit of a risk, because she's I'm going to hire this wild card, Catherine Hover, to help me build this brand and build out this new solution to a problem that she's been, sort of experiencing all of her life. And she's already in the recruiting staffing field, but on the public sector. So she's a women-owned certified company. Which you are now, right? Yeah. And so she gets lots of government contracts, and people government contracts. And I'm learning all this. It's a big old world that I didn't know anything about. So that's fun. Being just learning something I had no clue about. and all the opportunities that exist on the government sector. Like some contracts that go out, they have to use minority or women-owned businesses to do the work. And so that's where Tammy falls in. So she's been very successful with that. And now she's like, oh, we're going to take it to the private side. We're going to start doing more mission work and, private sector work and, disrupt this sort of frustrating problem that we all experience. And I certainly had a lot. We have so many stories in Palette, like amazing humans who want to work, are willing and able to work, and they're going unemployed because they're not finding the right fit. And it's a shame because we have such amazing talent in the Capital Region.
Have you found, how long have you been doing this now?
Since, I don't know, it seems like forever. I've been doing this
maybe
forever.
July, August?
Yeah, something around there.
July, August,
What happened
September,
to summer?
or
Summer just flew by.
It did flow by. Flow?
It flew by.
It flew by. What have you had situations in which you've like made a successful match so far?
Yes, this is really exciting.
Okay.
My favorite one is just like, talking to an organization that's feeling really stressed and overwhelmed and discouraged. And, like this way, nobody wants to work. Like Gen Z and young millennials, they just don't want to work. It's like, yes, they do. They just don't want to work for you because you are an asshole. And you are not picking up what the world is putting down. You're living in the Stone Ages. So let me help you. Let me help you find some awesome people to work for you and shift the energy around here. And the other thing I'm realizing is like, I am so direct and very impatient. So I'm like, the solution is in front of your eyes. It is me. It is Tammy. It is Higher Strats. Like, let us just do this for you.
That was a great ad.
It's fun.
I don't know if you can talk specifics, but like people and places.
Yeah, I mean,
we're
well, it's
I don't want to.
it's tricky.
Yeah, okay.
It's tricky because it's sensitive,
Yeah.
And
there might be people you have to talk to before you share it.
right.
With the
But like, I think what's so exciting about this whole process is that I'm helping people on both sides of the equation here,
Yeah.
So I'm helping organizations strengthen their culture, and I'm helping amazing people get in the right seat on the right spaceship, because Higher Strats is all about the branding is so much fun. The branding, we just finalized the logo, and it's like very galactical, like universe. Like, I can't wait for all the puns. I cannot wait now, launching soon.
Which one of your daughters will be an astronaut?
Ready for takeoff? Ready to join the crew?
Space crew.
This is your captain speaking. I can't wait. I'm having so much fun already, but this is the tip of the iceberg.
I feel like I know that you have this hunger to learn and this like insane curiosity, and it's really cool to watch you like get that satiated in a different way where it's like not all on your shoulders.
Oh my God, that's what's so exciting too. I mean, even like telling Tammy, I'm like, I'm a little stressed at the investment, and she's like, wait, it's not your problem. And I was like, you're right. I mean, it's not my, but that's just who I am. Like, but yeah, this is not starting a new business. This is not buying office furniture for a co-working space. Yeah. This is not, it's a very new experience, and I'm so excited. But it also just like plays right into, my master plan of just helping more people, help more people, and empowering women, and being sort of this trailblazer, if you will.
Speaking of trailblazing,
just to kind of show people like there's so many different paths that you can take in your career and in your life, and you can always take a right turn, you can always take a left turn, you can always take a U-turn. I mean, it really is like you get one life. Might as well fill it to the very brim. And sometimes you overflow, and you gotta like take it back a notch.
Yes, sometimes
return to Earth.
Okay.
In your spaceship?
In the spaceship. Okay. So I want to talk about where seriously Catherine is headed, because we are doing
in a new direction.
We are doing a rebrand.
Well, the gist of, we should kind of like go, we did talk about this, like how we started Seriously Catherine sure, it was all about me, but it was like about my story and about my trajectory and how I got to where I was at the time and where I am now. And like everything I do it really truly is for the greater good. Like I think about that. Like I want to put things into the world that are going to like leave it better and leave the people listening or watching feel more uplifted and hopeful and positive. And I am such a big proponent of like, this isn't just something that I get to do, right? Like I want everyone to feel as confident and empowered and connected as I am. From like through my experience at Palette, which is like why I'm all about like spotlighting all of our members, making sure everyone knows everybody. Like I'm not necessarily at every single event. It's not really about me. It's about everyone else. I like try to reflect what the awesome is in the room, you know?
Yeah.
And the podcast was no different. It was just like an extension or another, you know, way to facilitate that. So we did that when I needed to take a hot break, hot minute.
Yeah.
We did a podcast takeover where Palette members took over the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And that experience was so amazing to witness our members step into the seat, do their own thing, have their own conversations, talk about what they wanted to. And I certainly do believe, at least half of them will spin off and do their own podcast because they deserve it. Like Brittany, Dimphna. No, everybody. Everybody should have their own freaking podcast.
Yeah.
Everyone should have their own microphone, their own time, their own space to share their own freaking stories. And I just think like, I don't want people to think of like, oh no, Catherine, she's an enigma. She just has this all going for her. And it's like, no, I have all this going for me because I just go all in and I do it without. Not that I don't have fear, because it is scary, but it's just like, well, is this going to matter tomorrow? Is it going to matter in a year? You know, like that I didn't dress up for this interview and I'm wearing my comfy Taylor Swift sweatshirt.
I think you look really nice.
No one, it's just like, you know, my point is,
yes,
that whole experience was amazing to witness. Like, again, I think some people were like, oh, how does it feel to not be doing the podcast? And it's like, it feels awesome. It feels awesome because I'm not doing it anymore. And now other people are doing it. Other people are having that experience and feeling what I felt. It's so cool to see that transferred.
Yeah.
And so we're doing that sort of the same thing, but we're rebranding it. So it's not Seriously Catherine. It's Seriously Connected, because that is the result of doing a podcast takeover. Is like people then know who you are, they know what you're about, they know your story, they know how you think and what you're, and they want to hear more.
Not just that, but there's a connection that happens in this chair. Like when you're sitting next to somebody and they're sharing their story with you, like you just become connected. It's almost like super networking.
Yeah.
Because now you have an excuse to have a conversation with someone who you've always dreamed of talking to, and the investment is so small, right? Like the investment is like, you can take over the show for a month, do 4 episodes. And if you've been wanting to start a podcast, if you've been wanting to develop your own thing, but you're not ready to make that big commitment, women in business, I challenge you to push yourself out of your comfort zone and share your story, share your branding, and invite whoever you want to be on the show to sit in these chairs with you.
Yeah.
Or we can bring them in virtually. Some of the people Dimphna brought in were like top of the field. Like she had conversations that like I was so proud to witness.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's really awesome. And so
and you literally hold their hand through the whole process.
Oh, yes.
So if you need help, if you wanted to bring in sponsors or if there's a brand or there's an individual that you're like, oh my God, this is like my aha, if I could interview, this is what happened with me. Like if I could interview Candace Nelson, I would love to have her on the show. Right. And it's just, didn't we have her?
I'm trying to remember. We have a long list of guests.
We had a long list of guests.
If we have her, I will link the episode in the show notes.
But my point is like the whole podcast opportunity is such a great segue to introduce yourself to amazing people who inspire you and loop their audience and loop them into what you're working on and what you're doing. And it's been a great door opener for me. And again, I couldn't the thought of doing a podcast before knowing you was just like a pipe dream. It was like, I could never do that. It's just like, there's a lot of like technicalities that go into it, right? So, and editing and everything, the space. So having you as a partner through that whole process was absolutely the key to making me do it. And it's 4 episodes. I mean, I think I did it for, was it
a year about
a year? Yeah. I mean, that's a commitment. That is potentially, there's a reason why podcast hosts do seasons.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about
I didn't get that memo. I just was like, go hard, go nonstop. This is indefinite. So a month is like a very palatable kind of way to dip your toe in, dip your paintbrush in.
Oh, pal.
And
paint and sip right at the same time.
Yeah, and sort of try it out.
That, and I think that for the audience, the people who are listening, then there's this collection of women in business who are sharing their stories so that you can learn from all of these amazing women in business who have done incredible things.
Yeah.
But are still on their own journeys, and they're still discovering and they're still learning. And it kind of, I think, breaks apart the imposter syndrome that sometimes that we're faced with. And so it's nice to see all of these different people stepping into their own self-confidence while they're doing it.
My point is that I just don't understand why somebody wouldn't want to, what is it about people that don't think that they apply to something like this? You know what I mean?
I think some people are shy.
Oh, right. Okay. That's a thing.
I think some people don't necessarily feel comfortable being in front of the mic and the camera. And I also think some people really, they want to stay private. I think that some people just they're like, oh, I don't need to go out there and be known. I think some people really just don't want to be. I think, at least I know people like that.
Yeah, and that people that just would rather not tell their story.
Well, they'll tell their story, but not publicly.
Not on a podcast. With 40,000 viewers.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
It's wild.
Yeah, it is. Well, Catherine, I have been really honored and just to go on this journey with you. And I feel like I'm still on a journey with you.
Oh, you're partners for life.
We're still going. And I look forward to where the rocket ship takes us. And thank you for being here on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm really excited about Seriously Connected. I love that.
Thank you. Me too.
Look what you did.
Look what we did.
Look what we did. But I certainly teed it off. But
inspired.
This is this is all you, babe.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Now it's time for this week's Saratoga lifestyle segment brought to you by Saratoga Living After Hours. They have a Substack. If you don't know what Substack is, it is a blogging platform that is behind a paywall, but only sometimes, and you can get really cool content from Substack. So let's talk about what is in their After Hours Substack. And something I have often thought of, but haven't really shared, is I love the title of their Substack. What happens after hours in Saratoga? Do you know? Do you want to know? Wouldn't it be great if there was somebody just on the scene absorbing information and taking notes and then writing about it? And it's real, authentic, and it's so, so funny. So I love this one that she just put out there. And the she that I'm talking to you about is Natalie. She is the editor at Saratoga Living Magazine, and she has been writing this Substack for a while, and she's a very talented writer. So I'm going to channel her and read a little bit of this Substack, but not too much, because the goal of this segment is to get you to subscribe to their Substack. Okay. Are Saratoga's running clubs the new dating app? right? I'm intrigued already. So people are working out and dating. Also, ew, but like maybe enjoyable. Okay, so Natalie writes, she's investigating the viral phenomenon right here in the Spa City. She says, I can't say for certain what your Instagram, TikTok algorithms were showing you this summer, but you might have come across at least one video proclaiming a possibly monumental and possibly shift in the dating world. Running clubs are the new dating app. Indeed, TikToks and Instagram reels showing swarms of attractive 20 and 30-somethings running through urban centers abound, suggesting that the only thing standing in the way of finding love is your aversion to cardio. The New York Times even covered the phenomenon, then offered advice for dating a serious runner if, of course, it all ends up working out. Okay. So she then investigated whether or not the same thing was happening at Saratoga's running clubs. And I don't know if you know this already, but there's a lot of running clubs. Like this goes on. This goes and goes and goes. Okay. So I'm going to read some of them. There's the Rubber Club, Single Cut Run Club, I Run Local. I knew about that one. Fleet Feet Vikings. Did you know about that?
How about the store?
Oh, I knew about the store too. And Saratoga Striders. I think I've heard of them. Okay. So is there love on the road? Okay. Oh, okay. So I'm just suggesting that you check this article out because there are some interesting tidbits in there. But here are my thoughts. Of course it would work out. If you're interested in running and someone else is interested in running and you're both doing it together, running, that is, there is a real chance that you might have more in common. So if you're doing this one thing together, of course you'll build a relationship. And I do think that makes a lot of sense when you start, doing things that you love. It might be easy to meet someone else who loves the thing you love, and then you love each other. Aww. Oh. That's kind of how Steve and I met. He's my husband. We both signed up for an extra credit project for our journalism class. And yeah, we're still together all this time later. But like we both both really love what we do. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for being here for this week's episode of the podcast. My first takeover of a podcast in a very long time, and it is really refreshing to be back in front of the mic, the camera, and I hope to see you again next week. If you'd like to connect with me, be sure to check out my website, brightsighted.com. That's bright sight, like you see, SIGHTED.com. You can also follow me on Instagram. You can slide into my DMs and we can have a conversation in there. My Instagram is @TheChristineOD. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.